I will also call on you. If you are not comfortable answering, just say, you can just even, you don't even have to be verbal. You can just be like, not me, I'll skip to somebody else. Other thing, I will ask permission before touching you. So I will ask consent before touching you. I encourage everybody here to take on this practice at practice. I don't care if it's your best fucking friend at practice. When you're training, ask for consent before touching somebody because it's going to put their brain out of fight or flight mode. You may not know if your friend is in fight or flight mode, especially after a hard practice. When you ask permission, you get them in the moment so you can actually learn again together. The human brain does not learn in fight or flight mode, which is the reason why I'm a huge proponent of these motherfuckers. Wiffle ball bats take away a lot of the pain when you're doing 1,000 sets. When you're doing 1,000 sets with your friend, I can hit you with a wiffle ball bat all day long. It's going to sting a little bit. Rattan stick has a higher buy-in rate for learning. We're about learning because the more data we can take in, the better fighter we are, the faster. And sometimes we have to take away a little bit of risk to start learning how to do this sport. So we're going to talk a lot about that off and on today. Any questions or comments so far? No? All right. So the first part of my class is where I stand on a little soapbox. So my apologies. There's going to be a couple of these today. The SCA teaches a lot of physical mechanics really badly. Really, really fucking badly. Hip rotation is a goddamn lie. Hip rotation is a bastardization of hip mechanics. It's a cheat code because somebody didn't know how to explain frame weight transfer. And so it turned us into a very twisty sport. You will see in all of my fights, I have tried to reduce twist out of my body as much as possible. We're going to go over this later in class, because my job is to face my opponent the entire time. If I'm twisting my body, am I facing him? I'm fighting this dude over here. So my mechanic school is all built on straight line frame weight transfer, or I want to go through you, or I want to go through you. And you will see my hip move, because hip motion is absolutely necessary for our fight. Hip rotation is not, because I do not want to create rotational force through something. I'm not here to slap you, I'm here to hit you. And so we're going to be talking a lot about that. This is where a lot of questions come up, because a lot of people have been taught, you rotate the hip, throw it like a whip. My body's not a whip. By the way, this is my other soapbox. I hate that term with a fiery passion. We have joints. So if you treat your body like a whip, guess what? You will not actually support your joints while you're throwing. You'll break your joints. This is where we see a lot of people where they're like, throw your arm like a whip, it'll just follow you. This is how we end up with rotational injuries in the shoulder. It's how we end up with tennis elbow. It's how we end up with sore wrists. It's how we end up over gripping our stick. We actually want to build a platform where we support ourselves through the fight with tension through our muscles so we can use it. We do not want to brace. We'll also go over the difference between bracing and tension. And we're going to play with it a lot. I'm, again, very interactive. I'm going to make you put your body in a bad place, and then we're going to all correct each other. Here's the cool thing. Everybody here today is an authorized TA. Because as we go through this and we put ourselves in the bad positions or the good positions, everybody's going to help everybody get into a good position. You're going to learn how the body should feel in a good position. You're going to put your hands on your friends. Again, everybody practice asking consent. You're going to walk over and say, hey, I see your shoulder blades lifting up. Can we get it back and down? I'm also going to be teaching you guys how to fuck with the brain's neuro responses of how we touch muscles and get muscles to lay down, or we get body parts to move, because by touching it, it makes the brain more aware of what you're trying to fire. So if I ask you, hey, can you get your lat engaged, I will typically poke somebody in the lat, because it tells the brain this is where I should concentrate. Because a bunch of us are never taught to pay attention to our body. Most of us aren't actually taught how to walk. We learn how to walk, and somebody goes, congratulations, you learned how to walk. Start walking around like this. Like, nope, that's not walking, that's falling through the air. You just don't fall all the way down. We're not an airplane. So, that is the start of this class. If you need me to pause so you can take notes, pull up your hand and say pause. You just said something that I really need to write down before you keep going. Everybody gets this in my classes. I want you guys to be able to hang on to things as we go. It's part of it. I'm here all day. If I don't put on rig today and just coach people, That's fine. That is absolutely what I'm here to do until we're all tired and done and you guys are like, I would like a beer and for you to stop talking. So, the other thing is, failure is data. Divorce your emotional attachment to it. Failure is just feedback. It's not disappointment. We are all going to fail today. I'm going to stumble over something that I'm teaching, and I'm going to be like, hey guys, I just screwed that up. Hang on 1 second. Let me roll back and try to explain that differently. You guys are going to try something new, and you're going to fail. Your bodies all know how you want to fight or how you've been taught to fight, and you're about to get introduced to a bunch of new concepts. Some of you guys know more of this than others. You're going to fail. To fail is to play. To be willing to fail is to play and to learn. If you aren't willing to fail, you shouldn't be standing in a classroom. So just remember that. And if you get frustrated, take a minute. You got to walk outside. I'm not going to be offended. And nobody here get offended for somebody else if they need to leave for a second. Figure it out. Okay? Because that happens, and it's going to happen to all of us. I guarantee you, I have set my shit down in practice, told all my friends, do not fucking talk to me, walked outside, got my shit back together so I can get back into a play. So, failure is feedback, not disappointment. The other one is, in all things, victory conditions. This is a term everybody should have for practice. Winning is a byproduct of good mechanics, timing, and range. Winning is fucking accidental. So today, out there, when we're all doing practicals, if you're winning something, that's not the goal. The goal is, whatever you take away from this practice and you want to start using, making that perfect. I use this in practice all the time. While I'll be deciding that I'm leaning on one hip too much, and so I need to make sure that entire practice, even over my feet, everything else like that, you're going to hear me say this over and over today. What's your victory condition? What are you working on right now? Everything else like that. It's small, consumable chunks. By the way, if you're going to practice and you're writing down more than 3 victory conditions or 3 goals for practice, you are setting yourself up to fail. Newer students and newer fighters, one thing. The brain can hang on to one thing. What we do is actually mildly stressful. And when you're new at it, it can be very stressful. Your brain doesn't know what's going on, and there's pain when you faint. So one thing, just one thing. As you get more and more confident in what you're doing, you can bring in 2 things. Those upper end fighters can walk and work with 3 things. As you're learning more than 3 things, hi sweetheart, I'm super excited you're here. More than 3 things, your brain's not going to hang on to it. You're going to start tripping over yourself, and you're going to start making a failure cycle in that. This is like basic 101 how to fuck with the human brain, by the way. This works in almost everything. Studying for tests, learning a new skill, everything else like that. It's 3 things. You hang on to those 3 things, and you refine those 3 things, then you go from there. Also, one of the other things that I'm going to tell you guys in practice, I take 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off. 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off. 4 weeks of I grind. Those victory conditions exist. They are the only thing that I worry about. Grind, 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 grind. Practice is play. Practice is play. Practice is play. I take 2 weeks off where it's fuck around and find out. Let's see what's stuck. And then I redefine my victory conditions. Most of the time, my victory conditions walking into a practice are the absolute same for 4 weeks. If something like just clicks automatically, maybe I'll adjust it. But then if I've got to adjust something, if something majorly clicked, I go into that play for a little while. Just fuck around and find out and figure out like what my body actually knows, and then I reassess my victory conditions. And so that's like my overall arcing like, welcome to Helga's Thought Process 101. Any questions about this process? Comments, concerns? Telling me I don't know shit?
If we can get the crowd to move forward a little bit so that way folks can show up a little bit late, have a spot.
Also, like, I don't have to hold the fire. You guys can. Over here is like,
Howard. All right, since no one else asked, how good are you at bringing Old Western 900 under the Orc School of Fight?
It's really good.
Excellent.
So,
not that I haven't evolved, but.
So the cool thing is, you know how they say you can't teach old dogs new tricks? You can't teach the unteachable. And that's the thing. No one is unteachable. The problem is a lot of people learn to fear failure. And they learn that when I'm successful, I'm rewarded. versus, and this is a closed mindset. When I'm successful, when I'm rewarded, and when I'm not successful, I'm a failure. And that failure has an emotional attachment that we then abuse ourselves with. It's super, like, literally Western culture based. We are taught we do the perfect or worst shit. And it is grounding to us from the time we're in school. I don't give a fuck. You want to know what a kid is not afraid of? Failure. Adults teach us that failure means that we're not worthy. Fuck it, I fight like a kid all the time. I don't give a shit. You can beat me 7 ways to Sunday. I'm still learning because I'm having fun. This is Mario Kart on steroids. So, when it comes to breaking old habits, so we're going to go into the neuroscience on this thing. So, older fighters, or actually, in general, older individuals, the brain has less elasticity in those neural pathways. So, it's harder to regrind a new one. So learning a habit or learning something else actually takes extra effort because your brain doesn't make new neural pathways as fast as it used to, which creates frustration, it creates a mental load, it creates an emotional load. So by unloading the emotion, you can then do the grind better because you get back to that play mindset. And there's a huge bunch of neuroscience out there. I gotta remember the name of the book. I just finished a super cool neuroscience geeking book about basically data dumping and how you get the brain to memorize better data dumping. But that's the thing, is if you're frustrated, it's because your brain is trying to fire an old neural pathway. You gotta take the frustration out and go back to play so you can make a new neural pathway in your brain. So remember, you're always in stress. So once you revert to what is easier, because we are not actually predators. We pretend we're predators. We think we're apex. We're apex because of this. That's it. We are actually soft and squishy and die very easily. So our brain tells us that all the time. And then we go and do an impact sport.